It's been a pleasure working with you for the past, about a year. Obviously, doing a quick little interview to give everyone a little bit of sense as far as kind of who you are as a person, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur now in the software space as well. So I guess with that, I want to just give everyone a quick little personal introduction as far as yourself, where you're from, kind of what it is that you've done professionally, and kind of what you're doing these days as well.
Yeah, 1,000%. And likewise, it's been a pleasure working with you. I'm based in Toronto, and it's funny because today we have this SaaS product that we're running. We're focused on sales and all these other big picture items, but I don't know how to write a line of code. Right? My background comes from marketing, more of a sales side, in-person sales, that type of thing. And I slowly started to work with SaaS products where I started to understand how these things are game changing. It was kind of like this whole era of all these SaaS products coming up into the market. And I said, I want to step in here, but I didn't know how, right? Because my background's obviously in marketing. I didn't know how to write any code. I didn't understand infrastructure, product design, any of that stuff. But that's where I realized, and one of my older professors told me, and it kind of snapped on my head, that you don't need to know how to do everything, but you need to understand how you can fill the gaps to get everything done. And again, this is when I met you, when we started working with Benmore, because that's where all the technical stuff started to fall into place.
Yeah. No, it's obviously, for me, being someone who's been like in that space, right? I kind of, taught myself to code when I was 14, 15. All through high school, was building little things, went to college, got a computer science degree, worked in the industry a bit. It's super interesting for me, right? Speaking to people like yourself who haven't come from that space, but who are still kind of playing in that same arena. So I'm curious, like, obviously being someone who's not tech native, right, software native, right, what do you think was the thing that kind of pulled you into this industry, like this type of business, right? Was it, obviously the valuations are decent as far as kind of how the companies are valued in the startup world, but what do you think was that kind of allure, right, kind of bringing you to the space there?
Good question. Like I mentioned earlier, I started working with SaaS startups in terms of their marketing side. And one of the things that I realized always working in marketing is this problem with content. And I said, got to be an easier way to do this. And when looking at an easier way to do this, my mind automatically went into software, because currently it was being done manually. I'm like, there's got to be like a software thing to get this done that would just make everything easier. And again, that's when my mind started going in there. It goes back to that barrier of like, I don't know the technical side of anything, but I've been in the technical world just doing marketing stuff, which is why I kind of had the exposure to it. So I'd say you just have to throw yourself into it, and it'll work itself out if you have a will to go there and get something done, because there's people like you that people can partner with and actually figure out that side of things. Because frankly, I had no idea how to go about building a product. I had an idea, right? I just said that, okay, this is a problem that needs to be solved. I have validation from all these people and all these things. I have a wait list, but I need to build it out. And I had no idea what that process would look like, whether it was product designs, whether it was figuring out the infrastructure, or figuring out the little intricate details of building a feature, right? Like there was so much research involved that I didn't even realize. So you have to be able to step into a world of almost unpredictability, because you might not exactly know what you're doing and how it needs to be built. But again, with the right partners, all of that falls into place with a step-by-step process, which makes it significantly easier.
Yeah, no, I know it's obviously a really, I mean, this is something we talk to our clients about all the time, like kind of that information overload that you get hit with when you have a really good idea. And you're someone who's kind of our exemplar kind of template, because there's people that come to us, or just people you speak to generally, I'm sure you do as well, kind of in your spaces as well, who have different ideas, the next kind of Facebook, the next this, that, and the third. But when it's something that you really experience, and like for a fact, like this is a big issue, this is a big problem, right? That's when you have kind of the most upside, because for a fact, like, you're not making anything up, you just found a gap in the market. How do we fill that, right? So I guess that kind of follows into my next question, as far as when you first had the idea for Swift Proof, right? Like, kind of take us back to that moment. What options were you kind of considering, as far as like, I don't know how to get this thing, into reality, but what can I do? Was it like, I'm going to learn to code, I'm going to hire what was kind of that, those kind of options you were considering?
Yeah. So right when I first got the idea, it was funny because it sat in my mind for a couple of months, and it continued to keep popping up, and it felt like a sign from the world, like you got to build this, right?
Yeah.
Um, But immediately, I actually never thought that I'm gonna have to learn how to code. I never went over there, and the reason why was because I built my network in the startup and the software and the developer space, and I think that was one of the biggest keys to getting to this point and to where we're at today. Because you can leverage that network, right? I had you in it. I had a bunch of other developers in it. I had some other development agencies in it, and I started kind of testing the waters, having some conversations. I have this idea. How would you go about this? That type of thing. And working with you has been a phenomenal experience, again, because you filled that gap, right? One of the biggest things that I realized that as a business owner, a lot of the times what we're taught is in 2020 and beyond, like, oh, you have to learn how to do everything. But you don't if you can invest a little bit into your own business, right? And
Yeah.
this is one of the biggest things, like you have to be able to put money somewhere and make it work for you in one way or another, right? And in this sense, it's so that I can fill this gap of knowledge that I don't have, but I don't really necessarily need to learn it. If I can bring somebody on that's going to be leading the technical space, then I have nothing to worry about, right?
Yeah.
And the way we're set up, how we're structured, I never really have to worry about it because we have a team set up in a way that takes care of a lot of the technical stuff, and you understand it at a very high level as well. And slowly I've started to learn a bit, but I'm hands-free. And that's made it really, really beneficial because now I can focus on my strengths in the company when it
Mhm.
comes to marketing, when it comes to product, when it comes to these types of things.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail right in the head. And then one thing I don't want to overlook as well is like let's talk about kind of this with Proof platform as well. Like what problem is it aiming to solve? Kind of who that ICP is as well. So we're able to understand like what the actual product is from a high level. Just for the viewers to have a bit more context.
1000%. So with Swift Approve, I had the problem myself. I used to work at a bunch of marketing agencies in marketing departments at different companies. And one of the most common problems that I realized was every time content was created, whether it was by an external agency, whether it was internally, graphic designers or whatnot, it had to go through this tedious, time consuming, and a headache of an approval process. There was a ton of back and forth, and it was all done manually, whether it was long email chains, Slack messages, hour-long Zoom calls, and it was inefficient across the entire hierarchy and the entire chain. And I thought to myself, there's got to be an easier way to do this. It shouldn't be so manual. It shouldn't be such a pain. It shouldn't be wasting so much of so many people's time, especially people that are higher up, whether that's VP of marketing, whether that's legal and compliance, because they've got bigger things to worry about. And this shouldn't be the biggest of their concerns. And they shouldn't be chasing things down or sifting through emails for 20-30 minutes just to find something. They should have a clear view of what needs to happen, what needs to be reviewed, what's approved, and be able to access that whenever as well. And that's where the idea really came from, because it was so inefficient and it's such a huge time thing when companies are wasting almost hundreds of thousands of dollars on time because of this inefficient process. And I thought, if we can speed this up, if we can automate the workflow here, if we can make it so that it's extremely organized and extremely easy to do, automated reminders, follow-ups, everything, we can nail this problem and shorten that cycle by at least 70%. And that's exactly what we've done.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that, like I said, coming from the tech space, like the reason why we're in the position that we are with Benmore is that our team is just fully on the tech side. So we don't understand the problems that occur in these different like niche industries because we don't have that experience. And so when you first brought this up to us, I was like, I had no idea this was even a thing. Like I would have figured that they were doing things in a bit more efficient manner as opposed to just sending emails back and forth and like having things get lost in translation. So once that was brought to me, I was like, oh, this is a super simple problem to solve, right? We just kind of build this platform, have these different features in there. And so that's kind of one of the things that I love about kind of being in the spot that we're at is like we're able to see these different problems that I would never have been exposed to, right? And able to kind of work with founders like yourself to kind of create those solutions for those. But I'm curious as well, like talk to me about, obviously that was kind of the inception of the idea. Talk to me about what the process was like once we started working, once the Benmore team kind of got involved with Swift Approved, like what was that process for you? And then also what was one of your biggest kind of surprises, right? Obviously the first time of yourself kind of founding a SaaS application, like what was one of your biggest surprises with that process?
Yeah, honestly, it was a whole new process for me because I've never really built a software product before. I've built other things, I've had different offers, I've done different things in the marketing space, but to build an entire product from the A to Z was really, really different, really, really new. And what that meant was that there was a learning curve, right? So there was the inception of the idea. After that, what I had to do was actually figure out, okay, what does this product exactly do? Exactly. And from there it came to, okay, how do these features operate? If it does this, how does that operate? If it operates, what does it look like when it operates, right? From a user end, how should it look like? Or how should that experience be? So now you're juggling a couple of different buckets over here. And so one of the challenges here was to actually be clear and have that research done. So there was a phase where I was doing a lot more research to understand, okay, what bits and pieces, where am I getting inspiration from? Am I getting inspiration from DocuSign? Am I getting it from Hootsuite? Am I getting it from whatever product that might be? And how do we want to curate those things to create the best experience for us and our users? And what that also meant was doing a lot of research on our users in terms of marketing agencies and marketing teams specifically. What would they be looking for? What would be most valuable and most helpful to them? And to really step into that world of who that ICP is, to be able to do the right research from there, to be able to understand the exact way the product should be working for them, and then to be able to start building something that works in favor for them. And so through this whole thing, one of the biggest challenges that I had, on top of just learning the new process, was speed. I love to move with speed. I need everything going at 100 kilometers an hour. And if it's not, then I raise it as a red flag. What's going on? And one of the things here was that there's a lot of research being happening. We're building a product that, is a centralized proofing platform for all types of content. We're not just supporting videos or just images or just one thing. We're supporting landing pages and emails and whatnot. And through this entire phase, development also has to do a lot of research to figure out the best way to build something like this. And so you have to work hand in hand with, I guess you can call it product operations and the technical side, right? Which is the development research, designers, all of these things. And you have to work in sync. And the other thing is speeding everybody up. And so to speed everybody up, you need those systems in place. I kind of learned some of the things the harder way because we didn't have some of those systems in place. So there was some back and forth, there was some lag, but again, that's part of the process. And I think this is where Benmore really came in and supported us because they had the experience of working with other startups at our level and bigger. So they had the learnings already in place where they can give me the advice and saying, hey, why don't we implement something like this? Because this we've seen with other startups helps speed XYZ up or has helped build a better product in XYZ way. And so that has been significantly helpful into number one, getting us to speed, and number two, building us a better product.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing that we hear pretty often is like, it can be pretty daunting, right? Because everyone knows kind of what the end result is supposed to be, right? They want to solve this problem. Yeah, they say, okay, this is the idea. It should do this thing for this other person. But the actual specifics, like I remember we were talking way back when we are doing kind of the initial needs analysis, research, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, we need like, what exactly does this need to do, right? Because you have to have it right now, right? So that when we go into development, there's no ambiguity, right? Because that's where things get lost in translation. And so that's kind of where our process has been shaped now, is where we have all of those different departments within the company to help founders do that, right? We essentially want someone to come to us with just not even a fully formed idea, just a problem we're looking to solve, right? That way we can kind of take on the brunt of doing the research, right? We have our business analysts right now set up to do that research, help them to formalize what the features are, help them with our design team, right? You work with Sinclair at this point as well to kind of create those designs. And then from there, our developers to take those and put those into reality. So it's like a full cycle type of thing where you just come to us with the idea, and we'll kind of help you manage and kind of recreate all of that within our process. But I'm curious as well, like within that process, right? What part was the most valuable to you, right? I'm curious because obviously you come from that marketing background. What I think what it might be is it's giving you the flexibility and the time to be able to do what you're good at. But I want to hear it from your side of things. Like, what part was the most valuable to you in that process?
I'd say it was like a trusting source of the technical side, meaning I knew that, I can have the idea, we can do that needs analysis, we can figure out exactly what needs to be built out and work, and then I'm hands free from it, right? Meaning I can trust you and the team to actually build out what I've, visualized and what I've imagined and what I've visioned. And so what that allows me to do is take a step away from this development stuff and actually go in and be able to do what I'm good at. And I think what that means is, as an early stage startup, you don't have millions of dollars to hire an entire team. You don't have the resource capital that a lot of large scale startups have, or raised startups that have raised. We're completely bootstrapped. What that means is I'm not here hiring 20 employees right at the get-go. I have my hands full. I'm wearing 7 different hats. And for me to let go of one of the biggest things that are the most technical, the most complicated, the most something that requires a lot of time and sensitivity, because every little thing matters, that alleviates me in a way that I can put more effort into things that matter. Because we all know you can have a fantastic product, but with no marketing, nobody's going to buy it. You don't get paid. Nothing matters, right? You can have a B or C level product, but with 10 out of 10 marketing, you're going to make some money, and then you can reinvest into the business and build a better and better product over time, right? There's different ways to go about that, but one of the biggest things there is you need to be able to have that have that gap filled so that you can work on the things that matter. Because at the end of the day, if you're a startup, you're bootstrapping, money in the bank is all that matters, because you can only run for so long and you have to keep the lights on. If the lights go out, well, it's over. So you need to be able to focus on marketing, on sales, on some of these things to be able to win. And that's kind of been the most valuable thing over here, because I can do that. I can do more research with our ICP. I can hop on more interviews. I can bring on more users and actually talk to them about their experience. I can spend time doing those things that really matter to, number one, increase our sales. Number two, build a better product.
Yeah, no, and that kind of brings me to my next point as well, is that like, obviously what we focus on at Benmore, and we're not a one size fits all type of company where we do everything. We do legal, we do marketing, we do sales, we do development. No, we just focus on helping founders when it comes to their product development, right? So that can be research, that can be design, that can be development, but we're not doing the marketing for these companies. We're not doing that sort of thing. And so looking at our clients right now, who we're working with, who are in a similar spot to you, right? One thing that sticks out to me is that every single one of the most successful people that we're working with are doing what you're doing, as far as they're spending a lot of time, a lot of resources actually talking to customers, going to conventions, right? Meeting people in their industry, right? Having those conversations. And the ones who are working with who aren't, at this level of traction that you're at, they're looking for, how can I hire a marketing person or something like that? Because, it's just a certain mindset that some people have, some people don't. And so I want to hear from your perspective, right? As a founder, right? A non-technical founder, what do you think, right? Somebody who's looking to either work with us, learn whatever they want to do, right? Someone who's looking to kind of get their product handled, what are the things that they should be focusing on day to day, week in, week out, to really move the needle and maximize a relationship like this one that we have?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different things. Like I said, as a startup founder or as a CEO or whatever, you're wearing so many different hats, right? I'd start with number one being the product itself, right? To maximize a relationship with Benmore, with having somebody fill in that technical side of things, you need to know exactly what you're looking to build. You need to spend that time doing some of that research, even on your own, and understanding, who the customer is and some of these things to be able to get the right idea to you. Because one of the biggest problems that I've found, or that I've seen other founders even do, is they think they have a great idea or a fantastic thing, and then they might not have enough validation for it. They might not be as clear on it as they want to be or whatnot, and they go into building. But then when they're building, they're not building the right product, right? The visions aren't aligned, and you need to make sure you have that alignment. You need to make sure you have a solidified idea of what you're actually going to do, and then beyond that, once that starts happening, as a founder, you need to go out and start talking to people ASAP, exactly in your industry. And you might not even know exactly who your ICP is just yet, because you'll start to figure that out as you go and as you do more and more sales. But now you're out and talking to people in the industry, you're going to start to understand, okay, wait, there's this vertical, or there's also this vertical we could be, a part of, or there's also this little niche that we can be part of. Okay, then from there you identify, okay, what's the lowest hanging fruit? What's going to get us moving? What's going to get this flywheel spinning? What's going to be the easiest way to get sales and enough money in the bank to continue to reinvest in this company and grow it? And So part of that is being able to ask the right questions, because if you're not asking the right questions, or if you're not focused on the right things, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot, right? Like if you're an early stage startup founder, you can't be worried about building some, automation that doesn't even matter because you don't even have any deals in the pipeline. None of that matters, right? You can spend hours doing that, but it's not going to do anything for you. What needs to happen before that is actually having those conversations, initiating that, going into calls, meeting in person, developing those relationships to somebody that you can trust to give you the right information about how to build a product, about what things they'd be looking for, people that would actually eventually pay for this stuff. And I think that's where, the difference lies, where you're handing off the technical stuff because you figured it out, but you have to remember that it's not completely hands off. You're going to be tapping into technical all the time because of product updates, because of feedback, because of validation, because of all this information that's coming in. And you need to have that process in place to just send it over in the most efficient and smoothest way possible to speed things up so that they can work on building while you can work on selling.
Yeah, no, and one thing that you brought up that we like to really relay and kind of hammer in with all of our clients is that we're not afraid to have tough conversations, right? Difficult conversations when it comes to the product, right? Because our biggest thing, our entire kind of MO is that we want to help first-time, non-technical, self-funded founders build their MVPs while decreasing costs and decreasing risk, right? And the way we do that is by not building non-essential features, right? So that comes back to the very first part of this conversation as far as, okay, what does this user actually need, this ICP? What do they actually need as far as just the essential features to solve this problem, right? And so does that include having the most up-to-date, automation tool on the back end? No, typically not, right? And so and you weren't really an issue with this, but sometimes we'll speak to people and like, hey, we want to add this, and this. The question is why, right? Because we can do that for you, right? But I mean, if you haven't raised money, there's going to be a bill associated with that, and that's coming out of your pocket, right? As a self-funded founder. And so the question really is, what is the minimum effective dose that we can do to be able to solve this problem? And a lot of times people will be surprised that, that might include not even having the full thing automated, right? Some of our clients we worked with previously, like we've just built a dashboard. There really isn't even a back end. The back end's manual. They have a VA or someone on their team to kind of do the actual operation on the back end, but their clients see the software, right? And the clients are paying for it. And that gives them validation, right? And so I think one thing that people really need to understand, right, when they're coming into this space is that you want to limit your risk as much as possible. Like look at Sam Altman. Look at all these big, software founders. They all say the exact same thing. The name of the game with software is just simply don't die, right? Because as long as you have a product and you're iterating towards reaching product market fit, and you're able to like extend your runway so you just don't die in that process, essentially don't run out of money, you're gonna reach that success level, right? But the question is like, that's why it's so difficult for people who are self-funded, who haven't done it before, is like they think that they want to do so much at the beginning and it puts them in a place where they're at jeopardy of not reaching there, right? So that's something you kind of hit on that I want to just expand on a bit. But kind of wrapping things up here, I want to kind of get a sense as far as like, obviously we've launched, right, the product, had a big launch event in Toronto. I came out my first time in the States there, so it was a good time. But looking towards the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, right? What are some things that you have in your pipeline that you want to see kind of transpire with Approved? And then what are your kind of goals here, just long term as well? What are your kind of pie in the sky goals for the company here as well?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And like you've seen our growth, right? We've come a long way. Like we had our official launch in March 2024, but beyond that, we were working on the product way before that as well. And so with where we're at today, I think one of the biggest things is really solidifying and scaling our sales process. That's probably our next big milestone. And we're on our way to that. We're figuring a bunch of things out. We're getting help from the right places. And as that happens, what the other thing that's happening is more money is coming in, meaning we're able to invest in more and bigger things. So the next step from there is going to be more partnerships and collaborations with the right people, with the right companies, with the right publications, and that such. Because one of the biggest things that small startups struggle with is that just not enough people know who the heck they are and if they even exist. Right. And, you can do outbound sales, you can do some inbound marketing or whatnot, but you can't do it at a scale large enough unless you're actually actively investing in it, having the right strategies, having the right angles. But when you're wearing 7 different hats, it's hard to do. right? So now we're at a stage where, you know, we're scaling the sales, where we can start to invest in those partnership collaborations and things like that. That's the next step. And I'd say the third milestone there is still really, really kind of like far out in terms of the way that I'm thinking, but it's to have that more so established software company that is doing a consistent, that has everything with consistency. We are rolling out new features with, you know, the way we're getting validation with consistency. We're rolling out, you know, whatever that might be with consistency, sales with consistency, income with consistency, cost with consistency, because that volatility is what, you know, could ruin your runway, right, early on. And we had volatility early on. We have to figure out how to extend runway early on, but now we're in a place where we do have an extensive runway where we're able to scale up and take things to the next level. So I think, like you mentioned, you have to look at this in terms of milestones, in terms of a longer term vision. It's not a short term win. I think a lot of people see that you step into the game and, oh, it's a SaaS software, monthly subscriptions, we can get to 10, 20, 50K MRR, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, you can, but is it just like a viral product? Is it just some AI avatar builder that's just going to pop off for a little bit and then out of it? That's fine. You can make some quick money. But the other side of that is this a long-term product that's viable and feasible in the market to actually become a killer that has the potential of to be acquired, of a strong exit, right? And you have to look at these different things and structure your business in that way. And that's where your milestones will come, where everything else kind of comes into play. But yeah, I say that's where we're at. We have a long way to go, but we have a strong vision and an incredible team to support us and get us there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's incredible. So I guess closing remarks, right? Tell everyone where they can find you at, either LinkedIn, you know, Instagram, Twitter. Give everyone your contact here.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at Muhib Mansuri and on other socials at _Muhib M. I'd love to connect and have a chat anytime.
Awesome. Appreciate the call, man. So essentially, like I said, obviously we're Benmore Technologies, software development firm based in Chicago, helping Muhib to kind of, you know, get to where he's at right now with to prove. So if you're watching, you have a software idea looking to get built out, or just, you know, speak to a team who has a bit more experience on the technical side, feel free to reach out to myself on LinkedIn, or, you know, you can book a call with our team over at our website. I'll put the link somewhere on this screen here. But yeah, appreciate the time. We'll definitely, obviously we're always in touch. It's been a pleasure, so we'll keep it up.
1000%. Thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome.